Yo, sup, this is Jackalspicks, episode 3. Contemplating whether or not to do another episode, because, just haven't had much traction, but I thought, stuff it, I'll carry on, and I love MMA, and I love talking about stuff and fights, so here's episode 3. We're going to take a look at UFC 314, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez, which is quite an interesting fight as the main event, but we'll look at the earlier fights and I'll give my basic predictions and rundowns. So I'm not too familiar with the fighters on the prelims. I've seen them all fight, but I don't have enough knowledge on them to really give solid picks. But there is some good fights on the prelims. Yan Xiaonan versus Werner Jandiroba. Jandiroba's got that beastie ground game. Fights kind of like a man. The question is, how well-rounded is Yan Xiaonan? Yan Xiaonan looked really good against the champ, so it's going to be an interesting one. Hard to say. Yan Xiaonan looked really good against, against Zhang Weili. So Yan Xiaonan looked really good against Zhang Weili, even though she didn't win. It was quite competitive and it was a good fight. So this one's kind of a tough pick. Jandiroba's, she fights like a man on the ground. So that's going to be interesting. I'm probably going to go with, I'll lean towards Yan Xiaonan. But not a very solid pick because could go either way in my opinion. It's basically if Yan Xiaonan can fight off the ground game of Jandiroba. And we got Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson's got an interesting style. He's quite tall and skinny. Doesn't look that powerful, but has that deceptive power, and he's knocked out quite a few good fighters. So that one's going to be interesting. Dan Ige had that, he's had a few good fights as well. I think I'm going to lean towards Sean Woodson just because he's got that sniper-like striking, especially with his punches, and really good accuracy and power, like deceiving power for a skinny guy with kind of a weird shape. So I'm going to lean towards Woodson on that one. Although Dan Ige has really good wrestling and he's shown and he's got experience and he's had some good fights himself. So I'm not counting Dan Ige out, but I just think Woodson's, he's been on a bit of a fiery run. So he's got momentum. And we move to the main card. So we have, Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Just watched some of their last fights. Reyes looked good against Anthony Smith in his last fight. It started off pretty competitively, but Dominic just sort of dominated him and held him down and kept him up against the cage and just kept unloading punches. So Dominic looked pretty good in his last fight. Dominic's got a lot of experience, a lot of potential too. I actually think back in the day when he fought John Jones, during that fight, I thought he beat John Jones. That's maybe controversial, but when I watched it at the time, I was surprised when the judges picked John. I thought that was the one fight where John Jones lost. Obviously, he didn't lose in the eyes of the judges, and John got the win. But I think Dominic's had a bit of a chip on his shoulder since then. He's sort of tried to come back and prove himself, and he has potential. He's a good fighter, great athlete. Obviously, he got knocked out by Yuri Prohaska with that spinning back elbow. That was a bit of a downfall for him, and he's been knocked out in a few, but he has potential to come back. I think it depends on where his mind's at, and obviously physically as well, and how hard he's training and stuff. But he's an athlete. He comes from gridiron, I believe, or American football, so that's going to be interesting. A hard to pick. Nikita Krylov looked really good in a few of his fights. His last one against Ozdemir, he kind of came out a little bit overly aggressive, I thought. And then it looked like Ozdemir was kind of doing well in the first round. But then Krylov came back, and he's kind of got that style which reminds me, well, his karate style, which I like because, that's sort of my base as well. But he's actually really good at wrestling, and he does a lot of wrestling. So he's pretty well-rounded for a karate fighter, in my opinion. And he's just got guts and grit and heart. That's what I noticed from Nikita Krylov. It's a tough pick. I think I'm going to lean towards Krylov. He kind of has a style which I know people might say I'm full of shit, but he has a style which reminds me of Jacques du Plessis in a way, where in that fight with Ozdemir, he looked gassed quite early, but he still bounces around and gets all sort of loose and floppy, looks tired, but manages to sort of dig deep from somewhere even though he looks tired, and just keeps throwing. And in that way, I think he's kind of similar to Drakus. Obviously, his style's different. I think his striking style is a bit more clean and a bit more karate-esque. One good thing that I've noticed about Krylov is he throws good combinations, and he whips that karate kick up at the end of his combinations, which is good. Like, he'll throw punches, and then as people are exiting, he quite often will just throw up a kick out of nowhere. So I think Krylov has potential to catch Dominique, like after the exchanges. But I will say that Dominique Reyes does have grit and determination as well. So that one's kind of a really tough pick too. I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm going to lean towards Krylov. It has been a while since we've seen him. But Krylov also put a pretty competitive fight up against the champ now, Ankalaev. So I think Krylov is maybe going to get it. I'd say maybe on points. But anything can happen at light heavyweight because, one strike can change the way the whole fight's going. So I'm going to lean towards Krylov on that one, and we'll move to the next one. Now this one's interesting. Partly because of all the drama that surrounded it. You got Bryce Mitchel coming out sort of fighting for the Lord, fighting on the side of good, and he kind of believes that, like, it seems like he thinks that Jean Silver is possessed with demons or the devil or something. So the narrative for this one has kind of been like good versus evil. Even though I think Gene Silva's kind of religious as well. I think he's Christian, I believe, which a lot of Brazilians are. So it's hard to say on this one. I think a lot of people, obviously, Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. Tough pick, but obviously a lot of people coming out hating on Bryce Mitchell for stuff that he's said about, the war and all that kind of stuff. He kind of hasn't done himself any favors as far as like the fans go, but it is what it is. Like, I'm all for free speech and stuff, and I don't know exactly what he said, but people have turned on him definitely, and I understand why. But I still kind of, as a fighter and as a character, I like him. I still find him quite entertaining. I think he's a great fighter, very good on the ground. But I do think a lot of people are just expecting Jean Silva to sort of walk through him and possibly knock him out. Obviously, Bryce got knocked out by Emmett recently, which was, people are probably looking at Jean Silva thinking that the same thing's going to happen. I don't know. I think Bryce believes that he has the power of good behind him, and he has the power of Jesus and the Lord behind him, which, that is a great source of confidence for some people. And it could even help Bryce in the fight. Depends how emotionally he comes out. I think he can't come out too emotional. It's a tough pick again. Jean Silva, on the other hand, has looked really good in his last few fights. Obviously, he's been getting knockouts. It's a tough one to pick. Jean Silva, it's either going to be Jean Silva catches him and clips him and possibly knocks him out, or, stuns him and then gets on top and ground and pound. Or Bryce Mitchel might be able to submit him. Although the Fighting Nerds have been a good team and they're on a bit of a roll, so we'll see what happens there. That's another interesting one. I have liked the dramas that have played out. I've found it pretty entertaining. At the press conference when Jean Silva was barking, oh, and Bryce was, Bryce just looked dark, had that dark look on his face. And I think Bryce believes he's fighting for the power of good and the power of the Lord. So it's a tough one to pick. I'd say, if I had to bet on it, I don't know. I might slightly lean towards Jean Silva. I'm just picking it now as I'm talking. Although, I don't know. And here's the thing too with me. Sometimes my picks aren't necessarily who I want to win. Now, people might hate on me for saying this, but I kind of want Bryce to come back and win. I just think it might make things a little more interesting if Bryce keeps himself up there in that top contenders in those numbers as far as the ranking goes. But it's going to be interesting. I'd say if I had to bet on it, I might lean towards Jean Silva, but you never know because Bryce has got the power of the Lord behind him. And I kind of want Bryce to win. I don't know why. I often choose an underdog. I just love the story when an underdog comes back, finds a way to somehow hold on and win the fight. That's partly why I watch fighting, because I struggle with my own adversities in life and my own mental state and stuff, and that's partly why I'm doing this while I'm doing these videos. I'm reaching out to people to hopefully have some cool conversations and stuff, but fighting through adversity and the mindset it takes to still achieve is stuff that I really get into myself personally. So I think a lot of it comes down to mindset for this one. They're both physically going to train their asses off. I think Bryce, if he doesn't come in too emotionally, he could catch Jean Silva in a submission. So I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Yeah, I don't know. It's either going to be Jean Silva clips him and catches him, or Bryce, I think, might get him in a submission of some kind, or possibly even land some strikes and stun him and then get a submission. Because the Fighting Nerds, takedown defense and jiu-jitsu defense is obviously pretty good. So it's going to be a barn burner, that one, I believe. The energy is going to be good and it's going to be entertaining, and a lot of people are looking forward to that fight more than some of the others. So we'll move on to the next one anyway, but I don't know about that one. Next we have Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Another interesting one. Patricio, obviously wicked history in Bellator. I've followed his career as well, seen all his fights. He's a little nugget with power and determination and grit. He's looked okay in his last fights. I believe he lost one of his recent ones. But Yair Rodriguez has looked really good. He's got good kicks. He's got good movement. He's fast. He's, really good kicking combos and switch kicks and all that kind of stuff. I think if Pitbull doesn't get caught by a head kick or some sniper-like straight punch or something like that, he's going to try to apply pressure on Yair and do what he does and throw combos in the pocket and use his wrestling and jiu-jitsu as well. Interesting fight. I think Pitbull might be sort of more solid and more stronger. Yair Rodriguez, though, you can't sleep on him. You can't sleep on him. Because he's really good and he's got that Mexican toughness. So, yeah, another interesting one and another really hard pick, I think. Obviously, the question is, can Pitbull compete with UFC fighters? Because he's just come into the promotion recently, and his age is a factor. But I don't think his age is going to be too much of a factor, because he's still a little nugget of a strong athlete. I'm going to lean towards Yair Rodriguez. Another one that's really close, though, and I'm not too sure about. It depends how Pitbull comes out, Now we've got co-main and main. Now, Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. I've seen a lot of people trying to predict this. A lot of people are going either way. Obviously, Paddy hasn't fought anyone the level of Chandler yet. I don't believe he has. Michael Chandler. If Michael Chandler fights smarter with better, fight decisions and fight IQ, shall we say it, I believe Chandler could get the win because he's got the power and stuff. And Paddy does leave his chin up during combinations, and in particular when he's throwing kicks and when he's exiting. But I do, on the other side, let's play devil's advocate. On the other side, Paddy's striking has got noticeably better. He proved that against Bobby Green. He was landing some good strikes, good leg kicks. His movement's even pretty good. He's still pretty young. It's kind of like, it's similar to the main event. It's a younger, hungry guy trying to come up versus more of a veteran. It's a difficult one to pick. And so who I want to win, I don't know why. Paddy has grown on me and I really like him now. Obviously, his submission threat is massive. Wicked submission skills. I kind of want Chandler to win, though, just to keep him up in the mix. And I do believe if Paddy was to lose, it wouldn't take too much from his legacy because he is so young and he does have that chance to sort of, he's got enough time to come back and climb his way back to the top. Whereas Chandler, if he loses, he's going down and down in the rankings and losing against lower ranked guys. So it may be his last run for the belt as far as Chandler goes. I've followed Chandler through his career though as well, and he's had some awesome fights in Bellator. If you got time, I recommend checking out some of his Bellator fights though. There's been some amazing wars. Yeah, tough one to pick though. I'm gonna go with, it's kind of similar, like Chandler might clip him and knock him out because he does leave his chin up sometimes. But he's a real threat on the ground. Now, a lot of people are saying Chandler won't let him submit him because Chandler defended the submissions from Charles Oliveira, which is a good point. But he did get in compromising positions with Charles. I just think Paddy's really fast at like whipping up the triangle and whipping up whipping himself. He's got really good flexible hips and stuff. Really good at whipping himself into dominant positions grappling wise. And I think, it's like, can Paddy land a few strikes and get Chandler in a submission? And then if he can get him in position to submit him, can he actually finish? I don't think Chandler's going to want Paddy on his back for ages like happened with Charles. So I think a lot of this comes down to, can Chandler fight smart? And can Paddy kind of iron out his defensive wrinkles a little bit and also fight a little smarter, but just load up the pressure until he gets a chance to get a submission, or maybe even like land some combos and spark him out? Because Paddy does have that fire and he comes to fight, and sometimes he's just beating guys with combinations. There was a Brazilian guy a couple of fights ago that he beat. That was a really good fight, and Paddy just showed he comes to fight. Earlier on, I think he lost against, who was it? Yeah, there was a little wrestler guy. I believe he lost, but they gave him the decision anyway. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight. I don't know. If I had to bet on it, I'd say, I'm going to go with the young blood Paddy by a smidgen, but I kind of want Chandler to just come back and keep it more interesting. I love Chandler's fighting style. I think he's just got to fight a little smarter. So I think, for that one, I'm going to lean slightly towards Paddy. A lot of people are counting Paddy out, but I do believe he's a bit more well-rounded than people give him credit for. But in saying that, Chandler could catch him with an overhand punch. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we'll see. And the main event, obviously, I'm just going to bring up the records. Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. So Volkanovski's 26-4, Diego Lopez is 26-6. Diego just fights like a marauder. He does have good movement and good technique, but he just comes to fight, he throws himself in the fight like a wild man. Can he get Volkanovski out there in the first couple of rounds? Possibly. We could see another KO like the Ilya one. But I believe if he doesn't knock out Volkanovski has wicked movement, wicked all-round skills, really good striking, especially for a shorter guy. He knows how to get in there. He knows how to get in the pocket. He's good at slipping punches, even though, he has been knocked out. He's also got the experience fighting Islam Makhachev. His first fight with Makhachev was insane. It was awesome. He looked really, really good. I don't think he should have taken the second fight because, it was just too quick. And then, with Ilya, again, he came back after another fight really quickly. I think he came and fought Ilya too quickly again. I think he needed a little bit of a gap. Everyone's talking about the age as well because he's 36. I don't think 36 is too old. If you're training your body at that high level, I don't think he's going to miss any noticeable speed or anything. I think, again, it comes down to mindset because they're both going to be working hard. I think Volkanovski has got more sort of refined skills, but Diego Lopez does have skills and he's wicked on the ground and he does kind of fight like a wild man sometimes. And he's very aggressive. So, my take is Diego Lopez might come in and knock him out in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And then it's hard to say if he's going to have the cardio to keep up with Volkanovski if he doesn't knock Volkanovski out in the first couple. We saw Volkanovski with Max Holloway and, some of his fights. He's kind of a machine himself. Very good cardio. I'm going to lean towards Volk. In saying that, again, you never know. Diego Lopez could come out and just spark him. But I'm going to lean towards Volk for the main event. And yeah, and as far as again who I want to win, I kind of want Volk to win. I think it'd be awesome for his legacy. Just seems like a really cool guy. Not taking anything away from Lopez. He seems awesome as well. Seems like a really well-rounded person. But Volk, yeah, I just kind of want him to win. I think he's gonna get it on points. You never know, he could finish him. But I think if he finishes him, it'll be because Diego kind of gets tired and lets his defense down a bit, and it'll be like TKO as apart from maybe a KO. I think it'll be a combination of things. If Volk beats him, it'll be like Volk gets in a dominant position or just wears him out up against the cage and just lands punches, something like that, if Volk does finish. But I'd say it's going to be Volkanovski by points. But there is a chance Diego Lopez comes out and sparks him out in the first or second, in my opinion. And that's my opinion on the card. It's the most exciting card for quite a while. I see a lot of people dissing the cards lately and the fights that the UFC's making, but they're just working with what they've got. In my opinion, some people are saying there's no real star power, and the pay-per-views are a reflection of that, because apparently the pay-per-views have been going down and dropping. But I think part of that is the expense too. Like the cost of a pay-per-view in America now is like $90 apparently. The average person just can't afford that, like the average sort of, like it's expensive to pay that much, for a pay-per-view. I think the UFC should look at possibly bringing the price down again. They did it here in New Zealand. It was $40 if you've got Fight Pass. It was $40. Then they put it up to $45. Here in New Zealand, if they put it up more than $45, they're going to lose so many buyers, because people they're just not going to pay for it. If it's over $45, people are just going to go to a pub or something and watch it. They just won't watch. It's not worth it to them in this country, because the economy's tight and life is hard and their cost of living's just gone through the roof. So I think part of it's financial. I do believe they should look at putting the pay-per-view prices down. That's just my opinion. But that's my take on the card for UFC 314. Looking forward to it. Should be good. And we'll see what happens. I'll do a breakdown afterwards. But those are my basic picks. I'm not very solid, sorry to be on the fence and a bit wishy-washy about it, but a lot of these are really hard picks, a lot of them are like, it's sort of anyone's fight to win. But those are my basic picks. My first picks were crap, so, you could say if you want the worst picks of any MMA podcast, come to me. The last ones I got right were... with the following card, I got a few right, and I've had a few right since then. But obviously, I haven't made a video of them. So this is the next lot of picks I've put out, and we'll see how it goes. And if there's any fighters out there that want to talk about mindset in particular and that kind of thing, one of the things I've been thinking recently is like, how the hell do some of these people go through losses and come back? Because you must feel so shit when you lose, and then to have like fans pile on you and tell you you're nothing and you're useless and all that, and that you can't fight and all that kind of thing. It must be really grueling and tough mentally as well, especially after a grueling fight, like just to come back and like gather your mind and your confidence to come back again. And that's kind of what I'm into, like finding, ways of, pushing forward through adversity. That's the kind of thing I'm right into. If anyone wants to talk about, mindset stuff and all that kind of thing, then hit me up. But Jackalspicks, episode 3. Cheer from New Zealand Fanalyst, Jackal NZ.